Today we celebrate the seventh Sunday in ordinary time. And the readings remind us of virtues and elements of Christian life. That is mercy and compassion, love of God and love of neighbor, self-control and appreciation of values, moral responsibility, awareness of sin, and lastly, the sense of sacred. In the first reading, we hear David sparing the life of King Saul, even when he knew that King Saul was looking for him to kill him. God put David in control of this man, but David spared his life for one simple reason. I cannot touch the anointed of God. Just that. Just because Saul is the anointed of God, I can't lay my hands on him. In the gospel, Jesus gives a new commandment, that one which is completely against, our nature, our usual way of doing things, which is against the old law. The old law was about revenge. Moses said, an eye for an eye, If somebody slap back and even harder. But Jesus here comes and says, if somebody slaps you on this side, give him the other side. I'm trying to look at your faces. I don't see who can do that. It's not something simple, Even those who cannot harm a fly, there are people who cannot even kill a fly. When a fly is, you catch it and squeeze it in your hand. There are people, I don't belong to that category because I realized I had some chicken in my place there and I have slaughtered all of them. So, so I may not fall to this. But even the people who cannot harm a fly, if somebody tell you something or does something very bad to you, there is that feeling inside you, of revenge. Even if you cannot revenge, if this somebody is walking after he has told you bad things, and this somebody stumbles, you are like, yes, God has revenged for me. There is a kind of joy in you. Let me use the example I love using when we are driving, right? When we are on the road, and I keep telling people, when you are driving, always remember this. This is from Father Kibaki. Always when you are driving, always tell yourself, I'm the only sober driver on this road. And take other drivers, mad drivers. You are the only sober driver. So drive knowing you are the sober one, the rest are mad. So that you cannot go getting annoyed by yourself. So if somebody cut you on the road, how do you feel? You are like, no, That's a feeling of anger within you. If this person who has cut you hit the car in front of you, like, I knew this will happen. You with a kind of joy inside you, I knew, he was cutting me, you see now. That's natural for us. But this is what Jesus is telling us. We have to move away from this way of doing things. And the question that confronted me when I was trying, to look at the readings of today was this question: how can we reconcile the quest for justice with being merciful and compassionate? Is there a common ground? But we can still, somebody has done wrong to me, but I need my justice. But as the other side also, I want to be merciful. I want to be compassionate. I want to deal with him as a Christian. Is there a middle ground? Justice and mercy can be mutually exclusive. It can look like they are different. That you can't be merciful and still look for justice. Because this is what the society has trained us. This is what it has been presented to us. But you can't handle them at the same time. But they go together. And Jesus also knew this. One of the reasons is that when we are hurt, that wound may not go quickly. And even to some, the scars of being hurt by somebody whom they love may never disappear. Jesus taught this sermon knowing that, and even gave us a good example. This man, look at where he's hanging. But apart from he didn't climb there by himself. Hello? That man did not climb there by himself. Somebody put him there. Somebody nailed him there. And instead of Jesus saying, let these guys rot in hell, he says that, God, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. He forgave them. St. Paul says when we receive Christ, we are guided by a spirit. Despite of difficulties involved in living Christ's teaching, the spirit that is within us will enable us. Therefore, brothers and sisters, let's leave revenge to God. In one of the Eucharistic prayers, put it so well. It says this: in justice, God condemned us, but in His mercy, He redeemed us. Because if God was to condemn us, condemn those who have sinned, everybody, including me who is yelling at you, I'm sorry. Even me, I will not see light because of my weaknesses. But God, in His mercy, He has redeemed all of us, except the one who says, I don't need it. But as long as we are struggling to reach, He will always enable us. The spirit of Him who is within us is going to enable us. We should not do evil just to impress somebody. Remember, two wrongs cannot make a right. When somebody shouts at you, you don't need to shout back. If somebody doesn't like you, you don't need to hate back. If somebody steps on you, you don't need to step back. Because you may win the battle, but you will not win the peace of your heart. If somebody shouts at you and shout back, you may make that person angry, but what about yourself? What about the peace within you? It's lost. It's no longer there. When we fall into temptation, we may win the war, but we have to look for the peace. And lastly, let us not lose the sense of sacred. The first reading we have had, the reason why David spared Saul's life was because he was the anointed of God. The sense of sacred. Another question I would ask, when you come to this church, do you feel any different? Do you feel the sense of sacredness inside here? Or is it just the same? When you march coming to receive communion, do you feel any sense of sacred? When you receive communion in your heart, do you feel anything? Is there anything? Any change? What do you tell God after you have received communion? When you go back to your pew, what do you tell Him? He is already inside you. What do you say to Him? When you go for the sacrament of reconciliation, do you just go and say, I'm just saying this? Do you feel the connection? This is what today we are being challenged. It may not come easily, but God has assured us that He has given us a spirit which will enable us to live Christ's teaching. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.